Welcome to my channel, Value Old Coins. Here you'll find videos about rare, valuable, and interesting coins from around the world. Watch the videos, learn about coin history, coin values, and unique facts you won't find anywhere else. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. It really helps us grow and bring you even more amazing coin content. Thanks for watching. Let's get started. The 1956 2 shillings, or florin, is part of the early Elizabeth II coinage. Elizabeth II ascended the throne in 1952. Her coronation was in 1953. The florin is a long-standing denomination in British pre-decimal currency, equivalent to 2 shillings, i.e. 24 old pence, and from 20 shillings in a pound it amounts to 1/10 a pound. Thus, in decimal terms, after decimalization in 1971, it became equivalent to 10 new pence. In 1956, Britain was still many years away from decimalization. The florin was a useful coin in everyday commerce. Over time, the florin design solidified, after some modifications early in the reign, and the 1956 issue reflects a mature version of the Elizabeth II florin. The Dei Gratia Regina FID Dev legend is part of the traditional inscription on British monarchic coinage. Dei Gratia equals by the grace of God. Regina equals Queen. FID Dev, short for Fide Defensor, equals Defender of the Faith. These reflect both religious and sovereign authority, and are carried through from earlier British coinage into Elizabeth II's reign. The obverse features a young, laureate bust of Queen Elizabeth II facing right. This portrait is commonly called the first portrait of Elizabeth by Mary Gillick. The Queen wears a laurel wreath tied with ribbon. The ribbon ends flowing behind. The initials of the designer, M.G. Mary Gillick, are in cuse, i.e. engraved into the metal, at the truncation of the shoulder, i.e. where the bust ends, and can sometimes be seen when the coin is tilted. The obverse legend, inscription, reads around the rim, plus Elizabeth times 2 times Dei times Gratia times Regina. The plus sign, or cross, is a decorative traditional symbol in Latin legends. The reverse design is by Edgar Fuller and Cecil Thomas. At the center is a Tudor rose, the traditional floral emblem of England. Surrounding the rose are symbols of the other countries in the United Kingdom: thistles, Scotland; shamrocks, Northern Ireland; and leeks, Wales. The combination gives a floral representation of the UK's constituent nations. The inscription around the reverse includes FID, Def, short for Fide Defensor, then 2 shillings, and below that the date 1956. In small letters somewhere near the design are the initials E.F. Edgar Fuller and C.T. Cecil Thomas as designers. Physical specifications and minting. Here are the technical or physical details of the 1956 florin. Material composition cupronickel, i.e. a copper and nickel alloy. Not silver. Weight tilde 11.31 grams. Diameter tilde 28.30 millimeters. Edge milled, reeded, i.e. with a ridged edge. Mint London, the Royal Mint. There is no special mint mark. Struck at the main UK facility. Mintage, number struck, 47/8/24/500, about 47.8 million. Pieces were struck in 1956. That is a large number, so the coin is not especially rare. Circulation, legal tender and later use. This coin was used in everyday transactions in the UK from 1956 onward. It was part of the pre-decimal system. When decimalization occurred, the 1st of February 1971, the florins, 2 shilling coins, were redesignated as 10 new pence coins in value, because 2 shillings equals 1/10 of a pound. They continued to circulate as 10p coins until the size of the 10p coin was reduced. In 1992, the florin was formally demonetized, i.e. ceased to be legal tender, on the 30th of June 1993. After that date, these old pre-decimal florin coins, including the 1956 florin, were no longer valid for payment. Numismatic value and condition grading. Since the mintage is quite large and it was widely circulated, the 1956 UK florin is a common coin. Its collector value depends heavily on condition, grade, eye appeal, whether the coin has been cleaned, has scratches or damage, etc. Here are some value points and typical ranges. According to sources like All Coin Values, in very good VG condition, its value might be very modest, pennies, small fraction of a pound. rising through fine F, very fine VF, extremely fine EF, up to uncirculated UNC grades. For example, approximate values. AVG, around 5 pence to 20 pence. OVF, around 60 pence. AEF, about £2. Uncirculated examples can reach £4 to £6 plus depending on quality. Values in other catalogues, UK Coin Catalogue, etc., show similar ranges. For example, in UK Coin Catalogue, the 1956 2 shillings in EF or UNC condition has somewhat higher value. In less good condition, worn, circulated, much lower. Variants, rarity, and special specimens. Standard circulation strikes are very common. There are also approved versions, less common, which are more prized by collectors. For example, there was an approved version of florins in some years with much lower numbers, but the standard 1956 florin is seen in large numbers. Some extremely fine or uncirculated pieces, or pieces with exceptional eye appeal, toning, luster, strike, are relatively scarce. If you find a 1956 florin in almost mint state, no wear, crisp design, that can command significantly higher price. There are no major widely documented die varieties or major errors for the 1956 florin that are extremely rare. The coin is fairly stable in its design. Of course, smaller minting errors, minor variations may occur, but these are not generally well known or high premium unless in top condition. Symbolism and cultural notes. The use of the Tudor rose plus the thistle, shamrock, and leek is symbolic, reflecting the principal nations of the United Kingdom, England, Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland, Wales. It was a unifying motif. The Latin legends are traditional and part of the long heritage of British coin legends, maintaining continuity with earlier monarchs. The first portrait by Mary Gillick is somewhat iconic among British coinage, youthful, classical, elegant, and used in early Elizabeth II coins. Many collectors prefer her portrait for its aesthetic. Specimen and condition factors that strongly affect value. If you are examining a 1956 florin or considering buying one, these are what to look for, as they make a big difference in value. Sharpness of detail. Check the rose petals, thistle leaves, ribbon on the laurel wreath, hair detail, etc. Wearing off or smoothing in high points, especially the queen's hair and wreath, or the high edges of the floral motifs, reduces value. Surface condition. Presence of scratches, marks, cleaning, which often leaves unnatural shine or hairlines, corrosion, discoloration, or toning. Uncleaned, naturally toned coins often appeal more. Strike quality. Sometimes coins are poorly struck, shallow detail, weak relief. Especially in mass production years, a strongly struck specimen is more desirable. Edge condition. Reeded edge should be even. Damaged or worn edges, dents or nicks reduce grade. Original mint luster. Coins retaining original mint shine tend to fetch higher prices. Interesting facts and historical tidbits. The mintage of tilde 47,824,500 in 1956 is one of the higher mintages in the Elizabeth II florin series. That means lots of survivors, but also more likely to find in worn or circulated condition. The size, weight, and metal composition of the florin was deliberately set so that, when decimalization came, the florin coin could transition into a 10 new pence. The florin, 2 shillings, was a long-standing coin in Britain's pre-decimal currency system. It was worth 2 shillings, which is 24 old pence, and equal to 1/10 of a pound, since there were 20 shillings in a pound. This coin was part of the series issued under Queen Elizabeth II, using the design introduced in 1953 with her first portrait. 1967 is significant because it was the last year in which the UK florin 2 shillings was issued for general circulation, with later proof-only issues. After decimalization in 1971, this coin, if pre-1971, was accepted as 10 new pence until the 10p coin size was reduced in 1992. The florin was finally demonetized on the 30th of June 1993. Physical specifications and design details. Here are the technical specifications and design, obverse, reverse, features of 1967 2 shillings. Denomination 2 shillings, florin. Face value under pre-decimal system 2 shillings equals 24 old pence. In decimal equals 10 new pence once in use after 1971. Composition copper-nickel, cupro-nickel alloy. No silver content for this date. Weight tilde 11.31 grams. Diameter tilde 28.3-28.5 mm. Edge reeded, milled edge. Orientation metal alignment, i.e., both sides oriented similarly. Features a laureate young head bust of Queen Elizabeth II facing right. This is a first portrait by Mary Gillick, used in early part of her reign. Around the portrait is a legend Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina, Latin, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. The portrait shows the Queen crowned with laurel wreath, tied with ribbon, with initials of the designer, MG for Mary Gillick, in cuse, i.e. stamped into the coin, on the shoulder truncation. At center is a Tudor rose, representing England. Around it are thistles, Scotland, shamrocks, Northern Ireland, and leeks, Wales, symbolizing the nations of the United Kingdom in floral emblems. The legend around the reverse includes FID, Def, short for Fide Defensor, Defender of the Faith, above or integrated, then the denomination 2 shillings and the date 1967. Designer initials E.F and C.T, Edgar Fuller and Cecil Thomas, appear in small letters on the reverse. Mintage, rarity and circulation. Mintage, number struck. For the 1967 florin is variously given in sources as tilde 39,718,000 coins. Another source, Online Coin Club, gives 22 million, but more authoritative references lean toward tilde 39.7 million. Because this was a large general circulation florin, 2 shillings, under Queen Elizabeth II, there is historical significance, but it is not especially rare. In circulated grades, many survive. It continued to be accepted post-decimalization from 1971 as being equivalent in value to a 10p coin until the size of the new 10p was reduced in 1992. It was formally demonetized in mid-1993. Value in collectible market. In lower circulation grades, good, very good, fine. The 1967 2 shillings usually trades for small premiums above May bullion or metal value, often just small amounts in UK pounds, few pence to a few pounds, depending on condition. In better condition, extremely fine, about uncirculated, it commands higher price, perhaps £1 to £1.50 plus and more depending on collector demand. Because it is relatively common, large mintage. For this issue, the key value drivers are condition, where luster, strike quality, cleanliness, coins cleaned aggressively often lose value, and potentially any error or die variety. There are no widespread exceedingly rare variants for this date that are well documented, so most value comes from grade. DEI, Gratia Regina, and FID, Def are traditional Latin titles used on British coinage, by the grace of God, Queen, and Defender of the Faith respectively. These reflect the constitutional monarchy and the monarch's role as supreme governor of the Church of England. The floral motifs on the reverse represent the unity, nominally, of the constituent countries of the UK, England, rose, Scotland, thistle, Wales, leek, and Northern Ireland, shamrock. These designs are meant to underlie the idea of union among the nations. The head design, Mary Gillick first portrait, is classical and idealized, used in the early years of Elizabeth II's reign. It emphasizes youth and continuity, broader political or economic and numismatic context. By 1967, Britain was marching toward currency reform. Decimalization was under discussion and planning, which came into force in 1971. The florin, with its value exactly 1/10 of a pound, was effectively a precursor to the 10 pence decimal coin, the idea being that the florin could serve as 10 new pence for a time. This alignment in value helped the transition. The use of cupro-nickel rather than silver had been removed from such coins in earlier decades, reflects changes in bullion prices, metals cost, and currency policy. The shift from precious metals to base metals was common in many countries in the mid-20th century. As collector's items, florins are part of a broader interest in pre-decimal coinage, which hold both historical and nostalgic appeal, especially for those interested in British history, coinage, or colonial, post-colonial transitions. Condition, grading, and what to look for. If you have a 1967 2 shillings coin, or are considering one, here are things to check: features which affect value. Strike quality, sharpness of detail in the reverse floral designs, rose, thistle, etc., clarity of the date, crispness of the lettering. Luster surface preservation, whether original mint luster survives, any marks dents, toning. Wear, high point, queen's hair ribbon, laurel wreath, petals of rose, tend to wear first. Deep scratches or cleaning reduce value. Edge condition, reeded edges, check for damage. Wear. Any minting errors, misstrikes, off-center, doubling, die cracks, etc. If documented, these can carry a premium. Interesting facts and trivia. Although the florin series started much earlier, mid-19th century, the 1967 issue was the end of an era for regular florins under Elizabeth II. After 1967, no new regular florins for circulation were produced, except proofs for Queen Elizabeth II. Because of its denomination being exactly 1/10 of a pound, the florin was often seen as a useful stepping stone toward decimal currency. When decimalization came, passing from florin to 10p made public adaptation a bit smoother. The consistent floral design, rose surrounded by other floral emblems, is aesthetically pleasing and is often cited as one of the more beautiful reverse designs of mid-20th century British coins. The florin, or 2 shillings coin, was a long-standing denomination in British coinage. Its origin as a 2-shilling piece dates to 1849, and through many reigns it remained part of the British pre-decimal coin system. Under Queen Elizabeth II, florins, 2 shillings, were minted from 1953 until 1967, with some proof strikes dated later. In 1971, the United Kingdom decimalized its currency. 1 pound equals 100 new pence, replacing the old pounds, shillings, and pence. The florin, equivalent to 2 shillings, i.e. 1/10 of a pound, effectively became the new 10 pence coin in value, though in size they later changed. The florin continued to circulate, with dual usage, until it was finally demonetized on the 30th of June, 1993. Thus the 1962 2 shillings coin was part of the pre-decimal system but survived, for a time, into the decimal era, in a transitional function, until its removal from legal tender. The Latin on many British coins reflect traditional monarchic and religious titles. Dei Gratia means by the grace of God, and Fid Dev is short for Fide Defensa, defender of the faith. Regina means queen, so the legend Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fid effectively proclaims Elizabeth II by the grace of God Queen, defender of the faith. These titles have been used continuously on many British coins for centuries. In 1953, the first portrait of Elizabeth II appeared on coins with a full legend including Brit OMN, short for Britanniarum Omnium, of all the Britons. But from 1954 onward, for many coins, the Brit OMN was dropped in recognition of changes in the British Commonwealth and the evolving status of dominions and republics. Therefore, by 1962, the obverse legend did not include Brit OMN but retained Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fid Def. Physical specifications and design. Here are the technical specifications and design features of the 1962 2 shillings florin coin. Denomination 2 shillings, also called florin. Face value in decimal terms 0.10 pound, 10 new pence, once decimalized. Composition copper nickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel. Weight 11.31 grams. Diameter to 8.5 mm. Thickness tilde 2.5 mm. Edge milled, reading, orientation metal alignment, i.e. same side up. The obverse features a young head portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, facing right, wearing a laurel wreath rather than crown. This is a Mary Gillick portrait introduced in 1953. The legend around the portrait reads, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fid Def. Around the rim is a beaded or dotted border. The reverse design was created by Edgar Fuller and Cecil Thomas, appointed by the Royal Mint Advisory Committee in 1953. The central motif is a Tudor rose, a rose motif combining white and red roses, symbolizing union, encircled by thistle buds, Scotland, shamrock leaves, Ireland, and leek-like motifs, Wales, representing the nations of the United Kingdom. The legend around this reads FID Def times 2 shillings along with the date 1962. The border also features a beaded dotted rim. The floral and national symbols around the Tudor rose give this coin a decorative, symbolic character, representing unity among the constituent nations of the UK, England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland. One interesting note, the florin size and weight closely matched that of the new decimal 10 pence coin when introduced, which helped ease transition in usage, though the 10p coin was later made smaller minting, circulation, and usage. The 1962 2 shillings was a regularly minted circulation coin, used in everyday commerce across the United Kingdom and in territories where British pre-decimal currency circulated. Its face value in the old system was 2 shillings, equal to 24 old pence, since 12 pence equals 1 shilling. After decimalization in 1971, the florin continued in use as a 10 pence coin equivalent, i.e. it was accepted as 10 new pence, for many years. The florin was demonetized and withdrawn from legal tender on the 30th of June, 1993. After that date, it ceased to be accepted as money in commerce. In terms of quantity, I was not able to locate a definitive published mintage figure specifically for 1962, but in adjacent years the florin was minted in the millions. For instance, in 1965 the mintage was over 48 million for that year's 2 shillings issue. Because the coin was widely used in circulation, many surviving specimens show where uncirculated or near-mint examples are more desirable to collectors. Collectability, market value, and variance than 1962 2 shillings is of interest to British coin collectors, especially among those collecting pre-decimal British coinage, or the florin series. Its value depends heavily on condition, grade, rarity, and demand. Some factors in recent market observations. In average circulated condition, a 1962 florin is not exceedingly rare, so it often fetches a modest premium over its face old value for better preserved specimens, extremely fine, uncirculated. Collectors may pay more. I saw listings of 1,962 florins in good condition selling for perhaps tens of US dollars or equivalent in other currencies. One example listing, a 1962 DEI Gracia Regina 2 shillings in great condition listing for US $35, though that includes collector markup. According to UK Coin Co., the 1962 version is offered as a collector item, described as made from cupro nickel and the last remaining 2 shillings in general issue before decimalization, though technically 1967 was a final general issue date. Comparatively, later florins like 1965 have retail values ranging, depending on grade, from a few pence to over £2. Rarity or particular die varieties, if any exist, can further raise value. Collectors often look for mint errors, die cracks, or striking anomalies, though I did not find a well-documented special variety unique to 1962 in my research. Also, note that because the coin was in use for many years, surviving stock includes many worn examples, corroded or clean coins, and ones with damage. A coin in pristine proof or mint condition is much more scarce and prized. In terms of catalog listing, this coin is listed in Numista under 2 shillings, Elizabeth II First Portrait, without Brit OMN, for the years 1954 to 1970. The conjunction of the Latin legend and the floral motifs reflect both tradition, monarchic titles, Christian heritage expressed in by the grace of God, and the unity of the constituent nations of Britain, rose, thistle, shamrock, leek. Because this coin straddled both pre- and post-decimal eras, it holds symbolic interest in numismatists as part of Britain's transition to modern currency. The design by Edgar Fuller and Cecil Thomas, reverse, was part of a public competition commission process, typical amid 20th century British coin design practices, involving the Royal Mint Advisory Committee. The Mary Gillick portrait of Elizabeth II, used on many coins of the 1950s and early 1960s, is significant. It is one of the classical, idealized portraits of the Queen in early reign years, before later updated effigies.